Hello and welcome to the new City Beat. I'm Barry Gordon.
And I'm Andre Coleman.
And we're back, baby.
Just like that. They thought they got rid of us, didn't they?
Well, it's been, what, 5 years?
5 full years. Don't worry. Transparency is back.
It really is.
It's only going to sting a little bit, boys, but it's going to sting. Trust me.
And more transparent than ever because we're on the Arroyo channel now.
And they can't really do anything about it when we get on the Arroyo channel.
Well, that's kind of true. It's a free speech channel.
That's what I'm talking about.
We have, you know, we have actually a lot of freedom, and we kid the government of Pasadena. But
a little bit. We kid them a little bit.
But I like them a lot. I like the people, and we're going to have them here with us from the mayor on, and
talking about the important
we're going to have
issues.
some great people, and we're going to talk this time, which we couldn't do on the original City Beat. We're going to talk about some national issues too.
And you know what? I think that's what's amazing when you can mix the local and the national, and actually take the local and apply it to the national issues, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
I think that's when the city and everybody gets a lot out of what's going on.
Absolutely.
You know what's ironic is 10 years ago, we did, when we both had our own shows, Hurricane Katrina was going on, and we were getting, what, 7, 8 calls a night from people around the country talking about that. So, you know, ever since the last show went off the air on our own shows, people have been stopping me on the street to this day, asking when the shows were coming back. So
I know.
Now you get what you want because we're back.
That's right, and it's exciting to be back.
It is.
We're going to have a great time. This is kind of our maiden voyage. We're going to, you know, test the brakes.
So how you doing under the Nazi regime?
Oh, come on now. I'm not quite ready to go there. I'm close, but I'm not quite ready to go there.
I'm ready.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? It's strange times, isn't it? It's very weird. I mean, you know, Charlottesville, and then Hurricane Harvey, and you know, it's what the fascinating thing to me about Hurricane Harvey, of course, is the fact that when Hurricane Sandy hit, and all of the New Yorkers and the New Jersey people, you know, needed to get money from the Congress, there was this group of congressmen from, what state was it? I think it was Texas.
Texas?
Yeah.
Was it a Texas congressman?
Yeah, I think so. And it was Texas. And
the guy who ran for president, maybe?
The guy who ran for president and the vice president said, well, no, you know, we can't come up with money until it's an offset, right? We have to find ways to reduce the budget in other places. And
it's going to
then
cost
we'll
so
come
much.
up with the money. Exactly. So now,
the tide is
we
turned.
are. Yeah. And we're not saying, and I want to be really clear about this, we're not saying good, because we're not saying that at all. Not when we look at thousands of people
clearly
who are homeless and who are in shelters.
You know, as we said during Katrina and reiterating now, clearly these people need help. And hopefully they will get the aid that they need. I don't care who the president is. Hopefully, you know, the president and Congress does the right thing. However, accountability calls for us to look back at what happened in Sandy and say that there are people in Congress right now who did not want aid to go to the victims of Hurricane Sandy, because it would have made the last guy look good.
That's right. And they've been lying. I don't know if you noticed the fact checking on Ted Cruz's speech that 2/3 of the money had nothing to do with Hurricane Sandy, and that's just a lie, you know. That's the other thing that I find the media is doing a little differently now. We're calling lies lies.
Well, I think
for a long time we didn't want to do that, and now we're saying, okay.
It's taken us a long time to get there where we use the term lie. But I think after Charlottesville, clearly a lot of people had enough, and they found the gumption to say, you know, to call people out.
Yeah.
After an entire campaign, when they should have said it then, maybe we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now if they had said it when they should have said it.
And it's the job of the media to do that. And so on this show, you're going to not only be meeting the political leaders, the community leaders, you're also going to be meeting media leaders, the journalists whose job it is to tell the truth and keep everyone honest.
Straight, no chaser.
So we're going to be doing that just in a minute, because right now we're going to run a PA, and we'll be right back with the new City Beat.
Do you want to change lives? Then come work with us. Options for Learning teachers guide, encourage, and support students' educational goals. All this while building confidence and critical thinking. Join our team of over 950 employees throughout the San Gabriel Valley. We have infant, toddler, preschool, and school-age teaching positions. Teach with us and help change lives. Find out how at optionsforlearning.org, where we don't just teach, we allow children to flourish.
Pasadena is very fortunate to have a rich and diverse journalism scene, and joining us now is a man that I've had the privilege to work with at the Pasadena Weekly, and actually the honor of bringing into local journalism. So welcome to the desk, Mr. Aaron Harris.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Welcome.
Tell us a little bit about, how did you get into journalism?
Well, I was a student at Pasadena City College, and I used to write these really long-winded essays that the professor liked, and he said I wrote it in what was called an upside-down pyramid style, which was more of a journalistic way of writing. Right. So he walked me over to the journalism department and introduced me to the head of journalism, and it started from there. And Andre came in one day, and he had, every year, somebody from the Weekly comes in and gives a little bit of a speech to the journalism students. And he came in, and we started talking, and they gave me a shot over at the Weekly.
What do you think right now is the burning issue in Pasadena?
I think maybe some of the homeless issues that are going on here. There are a lot of people that are being displaced from LA now that the gentrification is going on downtown. I think the homeless being pushed into Pasadena is probably one of the biggest issues that you're facing here today.
Do you think that the city government's doing enough about it?
I think they're doing what they can. The problem is that they don't have the services like LA does downtown. LA has, you know, the Union Rescue Mission and the Fred Jordan Mission and a couple of other missions that are located downtown that can provide services to the homeless people. There are 50,000 homeless people down there right now as we speak. But the problem is Pasadena isn't prepared for that. They don't have a center for homeless services like that. They can't take in the volume of people that LA can. So I think for the city, they're going to have to make some adjustments as far as trying to provide a budget or try to get homeless shelters or services to relocate somewhere here if they're going to be able to tackle that problem.
You know, one of the things the city has really been fighting to get under control is that over the last 2 years or so, the local homeless population it's become a more aggressive homeless person. There was at one point an effort to pass an ordinance just to deal with aggressive panhandling.
Right.
But the Justice Department's already ruled that being homeless can't be criminalized. So the city had to scale that way back so as not to break the law and violate it. I'm gonna go and toss in what I think is the biggest issue. I don't think it's the biggest issue, but I'm gonna make a prediction. You will see in the next couple of years, city government will be forced to deal with rent stabilization. I think it's becoming way too expensive to live here, which goes hand in hand with the homeless. Right. We've done something about minimum wage, but if you're making $15 an hour, you still can't afford rent in Pasadena. Let's just be honest about that. So I think at some point, they're gonna have to look at the $2,300 rents for a one-bedroom apartment. And I'm not saying rent control, but we're gonna have to do something to bring that under control in the state, but definitely in Pasadena.
It's been a problem for a long time. For a very long time, because Pasadena is, and some of it is just the nature of supply and demand. I mean, Pasadena is a very desirable city to live in.
Right. It's still a small to mid-sized city.
Right.
You know, it's one of those where you can come home, it's a bedroom community, you can come home and feel comfortable in your neighborhood. It's not like downtown LA is becoming this huge, overscaled metropolis. They're trying to, the mayor of LA is fascinated with the city of New York for some reason. And he wants to make it like Manhattan is, where you have lots of high-rise apartment buildings and, you know, just this major center with all this chaos going on. And that's not something that Pasadena is used to. And I don't think that they'll ever get used to that.
Well, they could if they keep building every time they see an open space.
Right.
And they keep building apartments that people can't afford. Then, I mean, we could pool our money together. And there are places in this town we still couldn't pay half the rent.
Right.
I guarantee you. And the three of us probably do okay. It's just the rent is too high, and when you get high rent in an exclusive area, you have to be careful that that doesn't leak over into racial issues.
That's right.
Right.
Because it could very easily become discrimination.
Sure.
It can become racism. And even Northwest, which has undergone gentrification. Our former police chief told me at one point he couldn't afford to live in Northwest Pasadena.
Wow.
So think about that for a second.
That's the same issue like you have in Beverly Hills or San
Yeah.
Marino or something like that, where you have somebody who's an official in the city, but they can't even afford to live within its borders.
But we have a more diverse population, and
Right.
so it's even in a way more difficult for us, I think, because we have to provide housing for a large multicultural population, and we don't necessarily have the way to do that.
And right now, Pasadena still has no cause evictions, which pretty much means, I mean, they just passed the tenant protection ordinance,
Right.
which does force a landlord to provide, or building owner, excuse me, to provide some money if they decide that, okay, we're going to knock this down, or I'm going to move you out so I can move Aunt Sally in there. They have to give up some money.
Right.
But if he's not doing that, he can knock on the door at any time and say, you got 60 days. Anytime. And he may do it so that he can raise the rent threefold to the next person. He can raise it $1 million if he wants. There's nothing.
Really?
There's nothing in California to stop a landlord from going, okay, I'm raising the rent
Well, where I live,
$500.
It's what, a 3% raise every 2 years.
That's what Glendale does.
Right, and rent control, that kind of thing, and it's something that keeps a community intact. The people that I've been living with at my location, the other renters there, it's been the same family almost, so family environment, because we've been there all 10 years. None of us have had to leave because the owners haven't raised the rent substantially, and I think that's something that Pasadena is going to have to pass if they're going to keep the flavor of the city as it is now.
And Andre, you said rent stabilization, not rent control. Are you opposed to a rent control approach?
No, not at all. I just don't think the rich donors, and let me put it to you this way. I think the rich donors, the restaurateurs in particular, just saw what can happen. They all donated to the current city council and to the mayor, and then they were made certain promises that weren't kept, and then the minimum wage went up, okay? Right. And now a lot of them are angry about that because it's their business that's being impacted the most. Mm-hmm. So now the rich landowners, okay, who put people in office, who pay salaries, who donate to politicians,
right,
they have to be worried because, understand, in the last mayoral election, Jackie Robinson said she would push for rent control. And immediately after that happened, a big bulk of the money went to Terry Tornick, who said he would not push for rent control. So it is not a safe political stance to take. Do I favor it? Yes, I do. Because I think, you know what? You have to look out for poor people first. The city is only as good as they treat poor people and homeless people and those in need.
Well, when we come back and talking about those in need, let's talk a little bit about not only what's happened with Hurricane Harvey, but we haven't been on, so we can go back a little bit.
We missed a whole lot.
And I think we got to talk a little bit about Charlottesville.
Okay.
And we will do that. And you raised an interesting question before we came on the air. Can Charlottesville happen here? Who knows? We'll find out. We're going to take a break and be right back with the New City Beat.
Hi, I'm Oscar Herrera, and if you are ages 16 to 24 without a high school diploma, a GED, or a job, I have a free program for you. I'm enrolled in Pasadena Youth Build, earning more than 60 high school credits a year, getting certificates in the medical front office profession and leadership training. Call now to enroll in this free program at 626-437-3509 or visit PasadenaYouthBuild.org.
And we're back. I'm Barry Gordon. Andre Coleman is here as always, but not as always. We have a great guest. Aaron, Charlottesville. What was your first thought when you saw what was happening there?
You know what? I just thought it was ridiculous. I was watching the news the first night it went on when the marchers came in to the campus there to protest the removal of the statue. And when I saw the torches marching down, the first thing that I thought about, it reminded me of, was the Nazi cult torch marches that they used to have when the Third Reich took over in Germany. And for a lot of people here, their remembrance is anything with a torch or anything like, it's like a Klan rally or anything like that. But it goes back to the neo-Nazis. Exactly. The things that they used to do.
It's a shame they couldn't afford real torches and they had to go buy tiki torches and
from which somebody else look incredibly silly. I don't like to ever say that Nazis look silly. Because Nazis never look silly, but they look silly with those tiki torches.
They robbed a bunch of backyards with some tiki torches or something.
Right, appropriating torches from somebody else's culture.
You know what? I'll tell you what I thought in the whole aftermath of everything, and I'll say this September 1st, whatever time it is, that was the death of an American presidency. He will never get by this. He will not survive this.
I don't know how he can.
Forget about Russia, forget about taxes.
Yeah.
You have the World War II people, our grandparents, parents, and the people who went through that, who will always be hawks against Russia. Some of the younger people don't understand that, but they understand hate.
Right.
And the young progressives understand hate, they understand racism, and some people say, well, they didn't understand it during the election. This is not that. That was him spouting off to his base. This was him failing to lead in a softball leadership situation.
Right.
That was a softball. Anybody, any presidential candidate, the worst of the worst, could look up in that situation and say, what happened was tragic, and I denounced the people behind it, and we need to do something about white supremacist groups. Anybody could have come up with that.
Exactly.
I just came up with it, and I never ran for president.
Right.
So imagine, anybody else with a speechwriter could have come up with that.
Right.
And he should have denounced that immediately. I don't understand why these people weren't, now that they're labeling everybody.
You don't understand why he didn't denounce it?
No, I understand because that was
he
his
looked
base.
in the mirror and he saw himself and he knows he's won.
Well, I think that a lot of it was his base. That was the people that he stirred up to go to the polls to vote him into office.
There were people
and that's
there
why
saying,
he doesn't want to upset them.
And this is what CNN, Fox would never say, and MSNBC missed. If you look online, there were people there saying, "Hail Trump."
Right. Yeah, I saw
Hail
that.
Trump. So they were pleasing their allegiance to him, and they've even said he's one of theirs.
Right.
If you don't have the sense to denounce that, you're unfit.
Right.
Well, you don't have to go as far as neo-Nazism to know that the idea, perhaps not of white supremacy, but the idea of white victimhood is predominant in the Republican Party.
Right.
It is predominant.
Right.
That's why you get such a disparity when you do a poll and you see, 60% of the people are against this. And then it turns out that 80% of the Republicans are for it.
White victimhood
which first
is like
tells
black
us,
suntan lotion.
Well, exactly.
It does not exist.
But it exists in their minds. And that is what Trump caters to time and time and time again. This idea that there isn't enough for white people because black people and Latino people and whoever else are taking away, they're taking away everything from
if everybody else lined up to take, I was somewhere else because I certainly I didn't get mine. Did you get yours?
What'd you take?
No, I had to earn everything that I had.
Exactly.
And I think
you have to earn it twice before you got it once.
Right. That makes sense. I think what it was is that Trump played into their fears. That's how he got elected, because their jobs that they had there in that part of the country were mostly manufacturing. And they didn't understand that manufacturing jobs were not going to be there forever. And some of them that are still there, the nature of them changed. They went to more robotics, computer-operated things, but they were stubborn and didn't want to go with the change that was coming to the
That's a great point. That's a great point. But I think what a lot of people miss when they say, and he did play into those fears, hook, line, and sinker. But what a lot of people miss, I won't say they miss because people have said this, and this is why he can't win again, in my opinion.
Okay.
He played into their fears while he was opposed by an unlikable candidate. If he runs against anybody likable, anybody, Al Franken, Adam Schiff,
Right.
Kamala Harris. I'm just tossing out names that come to me randomly.
Right.
What does he have? If you don't have Benghazi and you don't have, oh, what a horrible person. Now that base is always going to believe that. I'm throwing out that 30% that he'll always have, I believe. But I'm coming back to the independents that he just lost with Charlottesville. That's where, I don't think he'll be around in 4 years. No, but if he were, that's what he'll lose on. What the Republican Party has to ask itself now is, how much are they willing to lose with him?
Well, I mean, you see people like Mitch McConnell and other Republican leaders that are starting to stand up against him now. You know, they're getting a phone conversation and raising their voice to the president, something they would have never done years ago.
Mitch McConnell did not stand up to Donald Trump.
I mean, well, I'm just telling you what, you know.
Well, standing up means that you call him out on Charlottesville by name and you call him an idiot. Not we need to, everybody is equal, and reciting something someone wrote. Standing up is, I oppose this, this isn't cool, and you need to deal with this, or we're not going to stand behind you because I run the Senate.
Right. I think the problem there is that they want to still show some kind of cohesiveness within the party. They don't want to just show that the GOP is just, we're totally separated ourselves from the president, because it makes them look bad. You know, like the entire party is falling apart.
I see it the opposite. The GOP, Congress, largely backed by Donald Trump, spent 8 years making everybody afraid of Barack Obama. Well, Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, never said, knock it off, this guy was born in America. No. They never said,
no, they never did.
You guys are leaning or crossing the line of racism. And now it's full blown at their doorstep.
Right. Trump is Republican in name only. He's not a Republican at all.
I agree with that.
It's only, he puts that R at the end of his name, just so, I mean, so he could run for office. Right. And I don't think that when he did run for office, it was because it was great love for the country and he wanted to provide leadership. It was just another feather in his cap or his narcissistic personality. He wanted to erase the
legacy of the black guy. That's all he was doing.
Oh, that could have been part of it.
And he's continuing to do it.
Right.
I want to talk when we come back about how Charlottesville affected Pasadena. So we'll talk about that when we come back. It's the New City Beat.
Did you know volunteering can be fun? Community service is for everyone. Young people, families, men and women. As a Pasadena Lion volunteer, you will help your community and gain valuable skills, network with others, energize your life, make an impact, and have fun. Make a difference in your community. Volunteer. To learn more, visit PasadenaHostLions.org. See you there.
And we're back talking to journalist Aaron Harris. Aaron, before we broke, we were talking about whether you've gotten any kind of reaction from people in Pasadena on Charlottesville, but you know, something else has happened that make us question the sanity and also the potential racism, and that's the pardon of Joe Arpaio, which, as bad as Charlottesville was, that became the icing on a really, really sour cake. Right. So have you gotten reaction on both of those things?
Well, the situation with Joe Arpaio is, you know, most of the Latino community, of course, is really upset about that, him being pardoned. But there's one thing that I try to tell people is that he was pardoned for a misdemeanor, something he never would have served time for anyway. So the pardon was symbolic by Trump to show his base that he's on their side and that he is not on the side of these people that he claims. He's not on the side of brown people, yellow people, LGBTQ. He's not on, and he just proved that with the military, the ban on them. So he's really starting to, you know, show who he really is when he does things like that.
The firing of Priebus, and I think that this are signals that Donald Trump is not pretending to be part of the Republican Party anymore.
See, I disagree with that. I think he's very much a part of the Republican Party, because I think the Republican Party, except for some of the people who have been moderates, who have been there for a long time, is anti-immigrant, is pro-racial profiling.
It's one thing,
you know,
it's one thing to be these things without saying you are. It's another thing to put the sheet on.
Well, it is.
And Donald Trump,
which is worse?
Donald Trump is saying the things that that other Republicans wish they could say.
Right, and that's why they haven't disowned him yet.
They never will, and they're afraid of him. There's not a spine in the whole bunch. Well, he said Ted Cruz's dad killed Kennedy. He slapped Marco Rubio around, who looks like Burt Ward anyway. And none of these guys would stand up to this guy.
Well,
dude, I know people who go out back with this guy if he said some of the stuff that he said about their wife. Would you let him say that about Gail? Because I know I wouldn't let him say that about Sheila.
Hardly, no.
Of course.
Well, more importantly, Gail wouldn't let him say that about Gail.
That's a very good point.
that's probably more to the point.
Sorry to step on.
Oh, that's all right. That's the nature of the beast here, apparently. Now, I was saying there are a few Republicans that are starting to say, like Senator Jeff Flake, who who wrote a book about Trump and his presidency. You know, he's an old Barry Goldwater Republican, you know, and he's starting to, I think he's going to start that snowball rolling.
How did Flake vote on the repeal of Obamacare?
Flake voted for.
But he's standing. So what is he doing?
Obamacare. I think there was one version. There was one version that he didn't vote for, but I think he I think he voted for.
This Congress has within its power.
Because only 3 people voted against the last version.
They have within their power to shut this guy down today. They could say nothing gets passed till you clean it up, knock off the language, and act presidential.
Right.
Now that's standing against him.
Do you think he acted presidential with Harvey?
He held a rally, and the people who were swimming a half hour earlier, he thanked them for being there.
That entire thing was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You as a president, you don't hold a rally.
And his wife looked like she was coming from the club.
Right. Well, yeah. But I mean, the thing is,
she did take off the stilettos, though.
Right.
I want to do
put
a
on
fact
the tennis
check
shoes
here.
when she got there.
Took off the stilettos.
And put on her ball cap.
Yeah, right.
That's mighty first lady like of her to take them off.
Yeah. Believe it or not, we're done. Our time is over. It goes very, very fast. Aaron Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you for
joining us.
Good to see you again.
And thanks for giving us a wonderful kickoff.
Sure.
Look forward to all kinds of things. We're going to be on social media.
That was tame.
And here's a question. Here's a question for you when you get to tweet us. Should we have a presidential recall? Think about that. This is Barry Gordon, and
I'm Andre Coleman.
And this is the New City Beat, and we're thrilled to be back. See you next time.